Hello, my name is Jeff, and today we're going to create a login page for a website where we validate the format of what people enter into the input box. We're going to connect to a SQL database and make sure that that user is listed in the database and that their account is active. I'm going to provide errors when somebody makes a mistake entering information into the input boxes, and we're going to also make sure that any information that they do put in there doesn't get wiped out when they try to submit it, and so they have to retype it all in. It's going to maintain the information. And we're going to do that without JavaScript or anything like that. We're just going to do it all with PHP. We'll do some SQL code and, of course, HTML. So the first thing I did was I just set up a quick little table and a database called PHP demo and users, where we have a username, password, and we have a field that says whether it was activated or not activated, simply by whether it's a 0 or a 1. 0 would be not activated, and 1, of course, is an activation. Don't worry about the random right now. That's actually used in a different tutorial, which we're not going to deal with in this particular one. So let's get started. We're going to start with a blank text editor. I use TextPad, but you can use anything that you want. We're going to write this all from scratch, not using any special software, Dreamweaver, or any of that stuff. We're just going to simply write it in a TextPad or a text editor and get it all ready to put on our site so that we can have a login page for people to come to our site and log in and get to special pages or download areas or whatever the case may be. So here we go. We're going to write the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create the HTML portion of the form and page, and I'm going to do this with the doc type that is for HTML5. So in HTML5, it's simply a simple heading there, and then HTML. So that's the setup for HTML5. Simply those two those two indications. We don't have those long drawn out headers that we've seen in past HTML formats. Then we're going to create a head area, and in that head area we're going to put a couple pieces of information. One of those is going to be the name of the author. So we're going to designate that the name of this meta information is author, and we're going to say that the content equals the author's name. In this particular case, my name is Jeff, so I'm going to say it's Jeff, and we'll put a slash and a close, so that particular one is done. Next, we're going to put in another name, which is designating what we're talking about. Got to have an equals in there, and that next one is going to be the description of the page, and that content that connects with that description is going to be equal to just whatever you want to do, but we're going to say the content is structure of login page, and we'll close that all out so that that one is complete. Now the next line here is pretty important. It's going to tell the type of information that's in this document, and by doing the meta http equiv, and we're going to make that equal to content type. And what we want to do is we're going to then describe what the content type is. So content type is going to be the content equals going to be text slash HTML. We're going to put a semicolon to stop that statement right here, which is defining this. But we're also going to give some information about what the basically what the protocol or the structure or the format, and this is a char set, which equals the UTF-8 style. And that kind of sets off our heading area. So we're going to, at that point, close the head. And we're going to open up a body. And we might as well close that body just so that it's out of the way. And we're also going to close the HTML. So by doing this, we've set up our basic structure for our page, which is the doc type. We've given a little meta information. We have the body ready to take information that is going to be our form, and then we close everything out with the HTML. So now that we have that overall structure set up, let's put in our form. And the form is a standard HTML form that needs to have an action of some kind and also a method, and then we can close it out. Once we close out that line in our form, we are going to now make a table. And in that table is where we're going to put our fields, and it's going to keep it nice and neat, and everything will look sweet on our page. So just a little bit of formatting at the same time. So table. This is going to start a new line and create a new field. This is the end of our field and the end of our line. Of course, we have to put some information inside that, which we will do momentarily. Let me fix the table here. So we're going to have basically within this 4 rows and then the closeout of the table. Inside this table is where we're going to put our labels, and we're going to put our input boxes for the user to enter their information. Now, like magic, everything has filled into our table, but I'm going to talk about real quick what it is. Basically, we start out, our first field opens. We're going to give it a label of username. We want to have a space, but just putting a space in your fields or in your text editor really doesn't work. You need to give it a space, which is the and, NB, SP, and a semicolon. Then that's the end of the field. So in one field, we're simply going to have username that has a space at the end of it. Then we're creating a input box, which is the type of a text. It's going to be called username. We'll close that off, which is in the second field of our table. And then we close off our row. We're going to do the same thing for the password, only this time it will be type password. We're going to call it, and we're going to name it password. Then in the row below it, we're going to provide a checkbox, and that checkbox is going to allow us to know whether the user wants to be remembered or not. If he wants to be remembered, then we're going to send a cookie. If not, we're just going to start a session and keep track of that user while they're scanning through our pages. We want to make sure that they don't end up having to log in every 10 seconds because our pages aren't recognizing that they're already logged in. And then finally in the last row is going to be the submit button, which we call login, and on that button it's going to say site login. So let's take a look at what that is. So this is what we've created so far. We've made our simple login page, which allows us to put in a username, and it also does password, and we have a checkbox if we want to be remembered or not, and of course a submit button. So that's the end of our tutorial 1, which is just the basic setup of that. Next we're going to start talking about what do we do when we post information, how do we get that information into our PHP scripting, and how do we validate the information that's in there. So I hope to see you with video 2.